Okay, ladies, I don't know about you, but happy hour is usually about 4:30 around here. Not every day, but most days. Hey, thank you so much for joining me. I'm CJ, or Charmaine. I've been with Turtle Mountain since 2015 and am the author of Rescue Matters. I have a good friend with me here tonight, Brenda, who is going to be fielding your comments and sending me messages. So please send me any comments that you have as we go here, and I would be happy to answer them. Like I said, I've got some dirt, and I can share with you everything that I know. And this is Bella. Bella is in the book. I've had Bella for about 2 years, and my phone is falling here. And she's going to be hanging out with us tonight. So I'm going to start by reading to you a little bit from Rescue Matters. I'm going to start with chapter 1. I'll be back in 2 weeks and do chapter 2 and the stories in between. And I also just want to sort of pause and ad-lib as I go so that you can hear sort of what happened behind the scenes, you know, when I was writing it, as it went, and kind of what happened. So here we go. Thank you for tuning in, and cheers, everybody. I appreciate you so much. Rescue Matters. We will be known forever by the tracks we leave. God, I love that quote. Every time I write a book, I put down 10 quotes, and I figure out which one I love the most. When Keith Benning moved to Rolette County, North Dakota in the fall of 2013, he had no idea there was an animal overpopulation problem. Chapter 1, The Die-Off. Snow crunched under his heavy boots as Keith Benning walked toward the abandoned trailer. With each breath, a plume of white fog hit the air, and the coldest, darkest days of winter had arrived. The die-off had begun. It was January in North Dakota, on a remote square of land a stone's throw from the Canadian border. If the forecast was true, the area was about to plunge into the deep freeze. Wind chills of 30 to 50 below zero were expected for another week, maybe longer. With the deadly cold bearing down, every minute that passed was now life or death. If Keith didn't find them soon, they might not make it another night. Just before dark, he received a message. There's a litter of puppies under an abandoned trailer. I threw food out, but I'm worried they're going to freeze. I haven't seen them in a few days. Can you help? That message and an address was all Keith was told about the situation. Only he knew something else. If he didn't go, who would? In a conversation with Keith, he recalled what someone said to him just a few months earlier. This just might be my favorite part. It's a little bit serendipitous now. Keith Benning. A guy at work told me to stop now. That people had tried to rescue animals in the past, but everyone gave up after 6 months. They all burned out. I remember telling him we were going to build an animal shelter. He laughed and told me I'd give it a year. But whoever said that didn't know Keith. Looking away was not an option. He would prove not only to be fit for the job of rescuing animals, but would get the job done in a place no one else had succeeded before. I asked Keith about the first dog he remembered taking into his home. That was when he told me about Grace, a stray that had been living on the streets and eating garbage to survive. Someone messaged Keith about a group of kids who were throwing rocks at her. Here, animal overpopulation is a problem so long-standing that to some, hungry dogs eating out of the dumpsters have become wallflowers, a thing to shoo away. To Keith and his wife, I'm going to stop for a second. Time out. Cheers. I had a question earlier come through on the page that said, why did Keith and his wife get divorced? And when I saw that question, I thought, you would, girls, ask that question. And, you know, the answer is, I can tell you why I got divorced. Not from Keith, but sorry, ex-husband, you know how much I still appreciate and respect you. But why does someone get divorced is such a complicated answer. Only those people can answer. But I do want to say that at that moment that I stopped in the book, there's an asterisk for those of you who've read it, or if you haven't. And that asterisk says this, and I feel like this is super important. When Keith contacted his ex-wife about including her contributions into this story, she respectfully requested not to be a part of this project. She is the co-founder of Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue and pivotal in its success early on. She was involved with countless rescue efforts and deserves to be credited with saving thousands of lives, along with Keith, out of their home. Her tremendous sacrifice and heroism are not outlined in this story at her request, but what she has done has not been forgotten or discarded. There have been many instances throughout this story where he was actually they, but in no way does not including her presence diminish or falsify the rescue efforts of Keith Benning himself. And so out of respect, I'm going to leave it at that. So they took in Grace. They cared for her and eventually found her a permanent home. Keith didn't know it at the time, but she was the start of a new way of life for him. Yeah, he sure did. Yep. He had no intentions of becoming the dog rescue guy. And if you haven't read the book, and later on, if you read it, or I happily am going to read it to you, he had absolutely no intentions of being the dog rescue guy. Came from a different world altogether, which makes the story so incredible. He never imagined that 4,000 animals would go through his hands over the next 4 years. When I worked with Keith on writing Rescue Matters, I called him on the phone. He was on the road picking up dogs. He was doing stuff. I would take down some notes, recall, send it back to him. And in some instances, I would ask him questions and he would send back a long reply. Those long replies were great. I just had to edit the grammar, put a few punctuations in, keep his voice the same, and retell them. And I wanted to keep his voice. I didn't want to write the whole book in my voice. I wanted him to have a voice. And so, this is exactly his voice, Keith Benning. I followed my wife up there for a job. At first it was like, the hell did I get myself into? I walked into my house one night after work and found a pit bull standing on the kitchen counter eating out of a flour bag. You couldn't contain them all. Any area that could have a dog did, and then some. We used sheets of plywood to separate the rooms. We'd have to move one board of plywood to get to the next area, and the next, and the next. In the beginning, in a one-bedroom house and no garage, dogs were in the living room, the kitchen, the hallway, the basement, the bathroom, anywhere and everywhere. I rigged up doggy gates and wood boards to separate them the best I could. Oh, and the house was all carpet too. I'm sure. Lovely. As you know now, the rescue is different from that first house that he lived in. If you can possibly imagine how it was, in the very, very beginning. Pretty incredible dude. They kept every rescued animal safe until they could find it a home. After just a few months, the amount of work and responsibility became immense. They were housing nearly a dozen dogs at any one time. It was clear why no one had kept at it before. The problem was far greater than Keith realized or could manage. Calls and messages came in at all hours of the day and night. On the night he received the message about the puppies under the trailer, he was already overwhelmed with human calamities. There was nothing he could do for the puppies until after his shift. He hoped that they would still be alive. Keith Benning. I had been at work since 6 a.m. Domestic, child sexual assault, vehicle pursuit, stolen property. Everyone wanted to be a jerk on that Thursday. I was supposed to be off at 6 p.m., but I was still at work at 8. I took the message and told the lady I would try and get over there. There was this girl in Botno that had offered to help with the rescue the week before, so I reached out. She had never rescued before. I didn't have a choice, so I connected the two and hoped for the best. Around 8:30, the volunteer called and said she couldn't get to all the puppies, but she could see that 2 were dead, frozen. She was upset, confused, and scared. This wasn't supposed to be what rescue is like. Rescue was supposed to be like the commercial where you save the cold dog and squeeze it into your arms. This scene was just utter despair. I remember Keith telling me about that night in person and how sort of this poor girl who had no idea what she was getting into, kind of rescuing dogs, is all of a sudden looking at this mom and puppies and dead puppies under a trailer. I mean, it was just like, oh my God. Home from work, Keith changed his clothes and rushed out to help. When he pulled up, the trailer was not a residence, but a dilapidated shack that had long been abandoned. It was held up by crumbling cinder blocks and 4 feet of packed snow. A collapse seemed imminent. It really is like everything in Keith's life. It pulls up, and if it's the worst possible thing that could happen, it's probably happened or is happening. I've seen that trailer, and I don't know how you can possibly fit underneath it. Keith Benning. There was no way underneath the trailer except a small opening where Mama Dog had been crawling in and out. The snow was packed so tight. I went around to the other side and found the smallest drift and started to dig. I wished I had brought my shovels or a glove, but you always think of that later. I dug and dug until I could get under the trailer. First, one dead puppy, then another. Mama was curled up in the middle of the trailer with one puppy near her, and I hoped it was still alive, but I couldn't get to it. The ground was frozen 3 feet deep, and no matter how much I clawed at the dirt, I couldn't get under the crossbeam of the trailer. I pulled out my knife and stabbed at the ground, but the blade didn't break past the first inch. As I backed away, I saw how unstable the whole thing was. I clawed and shanked at the ground until I was able to exhale everything in my lungs and make it under. All dead. 6 puppies, about 4 months old, all ribs, a short life of being cold and hungry, and Mom was huddled up in the dirt, defeated that she hadn't saved him. I did it again. I did it again. I don't cry over many things, but all of this just gets me every freaking time. Every time. If you're going to stick around for a while, and I'm going to read you these chapters, you better start taking bets or make a bracket on how many times she's going to cry. I hooked a leash on her, but she didn't want to go. She wanted to stay with her babies. I had to drag her out 1 foot at a time. My shirt and flannel rode up as I backed out, and I could feel a pile of dried dirt rubbing on my stomach. I pulled, and she pulled back until I felt the snow on my skin, which meant we were almost out. End of Keith Benning. So where do you take a stray who is near death, has just lost all 6 of her puppies, when there is no shelter, no humane society, no animal control, and no help? Home. You take her home. And that is exactly what he did. Oh, Jesus. I'm going to answer a few of your questions. How's that? What was Keith's profession before Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue? If you want to have it be a secret and you want me to read it to you, close your ears, earmuffs, if you really want to know. He was a deputy, and more really interestingly, he was a prison guard for many years. Prison guard, I hope that's the right term for that. And when I wrote Rescue Matters, I incorporated a whole chapter on his life as a prison guard, and I sent it to my editor in Australia, if you're watching, Nicole, and she said something like, I don't know if this fits, but it kind of fits, but it kind of doesn't. I mean, it's not really about the dogs. And I said, yeah, but it's not about the dogs. It's about the dude and the dogs and the people and the dogs and the team and the dogs, and just this incredible situation, and who he is and who he was and how he got here and how we all got here really matters. The team at Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue is incredible. We come from all walks of life. None of us knew each other at all whatsoever, except for one of us really on the board at the core. We didn't even work in animal rescue. Had never even done anything with a nonprofit before. So all of our backgrounds, especially his, was really interesting, and I wrote about that. And I will read about that to you as well. I'm gonna put the buy links in the post. There should be a link tree to Amazon. Is it available in Germany? I'll have to double check, but Canada, Denmark, Australia, it's around. But if you can't get it and you're international and you want it, I will send it to you via email personally. Write a story about Marge and the pups. You know, I was gonna say tonight, I apologize that I don't have 10 nipples and 10 puppies, because I know that is what you've been used to tuning in for, and how much that has, you know, really meant to all of you. The stories and the comments that have come in about Marge and her pups and everybody on quarantine are incredible. Incredible. From this side of it, it's really, you know, just interesting to step outside for 1 second and see what you all see through your messages and what you all are going through. You know, from here, it's just different, and it was really cool to get all of your messages and hear all of your stories, and we want to hear more about them. And you know, I've had the question, are you working on another book? I am working on multiple books, but I am working on another rescue book, and I have Marge slotted, and I have your stories slotted in there too, which are just absolutely as heartwarming as anything that I could write. So ladies, gentlemen, I'm going to read you Gypsy's story. So chapter 1 in Gypsy's story, and then not next Wednesday, whoa, we're falling, but the Wednesday after, I will be back, and I am going to read again every other Wednesday from, for the foreseeable future anyway. But I wanted to include, how did TMR form? Where did that come from? And also, what were the stories of the dogs? Where did they come from? What happened to them? How did this just get where it is, right? And how do you save those dogs? And it isn't all us. It's not all us at all whatsoever. It's the people in the community on the front lines, the independent rescuers who see something and do something about it. There's way more of those people than there is of us. We are not the front lines. And Gypsy's story proves that. Gypsy's story, Rolette County, North Dakota, Shirley Warren. On my way home from work on Wednesday evening, I saw a box sitting in water in the ditch. I slowed down and saw a puppy poke her head out of the box. I stopped my car, got out, and started calling to her. She crouched back inside the box. I don't know how long she was sitting in water, but her little paws were pinkish red. I drove up to my house, got my husband, and called my brother to come help. We drove back down to the crossing and the puppy was still there. We both tried to call to her and persuade her to come, but she kept ducking back deeper inside the box in the water. When my brother got there, he went down the steep ditch, got her out of the water, and brought her up to us. I took her right away and reassured her that everything was going to be okay. She was shaking and cold and scared. I noticed how skinny she was, and every time I went to touch her, she flinched. Her backbones were showing and her little hip bones were showing. Her paws were freezing cold. And I sure hope whoever gets her knows how sweet she is and how much love she needs. Give her big hugs and tell her Mama said, "Don't worry, everything will be okay." Tell her how she is loved. Shirley and her family brought Gypsy into their home. They fed her and kept her warm and safe. They contacted Keith to see if he could help. With independent rescuers on the front lines and Turtle Mountain Animal Rescue as a resource, Gypsy was moved through the rescue chain and eventually adopted. I love Gypsy's story. Can we see her picture again? It was too quick. I would love to show you the picture. I don't know if that is a good photo of it or not, but there's Gypsy. And I did include photos in each one of the chapters. And in the Kindle version, I put a photo gallery. And I had a couple other questions here. What was it? Oh, jeez. I'm going to finish up with just a few things here, and then I'll see you guys not next Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. Amazon, not me or Turtle Mountain, put Rescue Matters on sale right now. I donate a portion of the profits back to Turtle Mountain, and you can question me about it all you want. My heart is in the right place. This is not a book for money or fame. I have given back every possible thing that I can. So I promise you, your donation of buying a book matters, and sharing our story matters. If you want to donate your paperback copy to your local library, shoot me a message, what library you're going to donate it to, and I will happily send you a free digital copy that you can keep for yourself. And Amanda is going to be on at 10 o'clock tonight. Amanda has been with us for a really long time. And she's going to be on with those little white mangy pups and give them a medicated bath. And they're so sweet. And so I really hope you turn in to Amanda. And I'm really happy that you tuned in tonight. I appreciate you so much. Without you followers, we would not be where we are. When I started, there was not the use out there that there is today, and so you guys make it possible. I wrote about this tonight. My writing Rescue Matters at the time was a Hail Mary. It was, oh my God, what are we gonna do? We're dying every day. Everyone is burnt out. Keith is burnt out. We don't know if there's gonna be a tomorrow. How in the are we gonna move forward? And I was like, I don't know, I'm just gonna, I write books. I'm gonna try and write a book. I'm gonna tell our story. I'm gonna put it out there. And I'm gonna see what happens. And if it saves one dog and it keeps us going for one more day, it is a success. And that makes me feel good about any small part that I played in keeping us going and saving lives. We love you all. We talk about you guys behind the scenes so much. And just want to say thank you. Tune in tonight for Amanda at 10 o'clock. And I will see you not next week, but the week after, Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Bring your wine, bring your questions. Thanks, guys. Bye.